This is us. We're up here. Beautiful, beautiful sunny day. Early morning. Can hear the waterfall in the background.
And the ducks.
And the ducks. Parrots also, every now and again. You hear, there goes one, right as I said it. Look, I wish you could see that. It's flying right overhead. We're in front of a little lake, kind of, well, it's like a stream that's not running. And, yeah, we're in Regent's Park, near Queen Mary's Rose Garden, on a little island. We left one island in Ireland and came to another little island. And we're here to do what?
Read Srimad Bhagavatam.
Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Canto 3, Chapter 26, Text 6. Chapters entitled Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I just realised there's coins in that tree.
Coins?
Pines.
Cones.
Cones.
That's a pine tree with cones, yeah.
I didn't realise that's how they grew.
By the way, Bhava Bhakti is very much a city girl. And whenever we go into the country and she sees things growing on trees, like when we went to my parents, she saw how aubergines or eggplant grows and peppers and tomatoes and corn, and she was just like, oh my God, really? So there's pine cones on the tree here. Fundamental principles of material nature. Okay, text 6.
Because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of material energy as his field of activities, and thus actuated, he wrongly applies the activities to himself. Purport. The forgetful living entity can be compared to a man who is under the influence of disease and has become mad, or to a man haunted by ghosts who acts without control and yet thinks himself to be in control. Under the influence of material nature, the conditioned soul becomes absorbed in material consciousness. In this consciousness, whatever is done under the influence of material energy is accepted by the conditioned soul as self-actuated. Actually, the soul in its pure state of existence should be in Krishna consciousness. When a person is not acting in Krishna consciousness, he is understood to be acting in material consciousness. Consciousness cannot be killed, for the symptom of the living entity is consciousness. The material consciousness simply has to be purified. One becomes liberated by accepting Krishna, or the Supreme Lord, as master, and by changing the mode of consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness.
Powerful. Thoughts?
Very simple, but very
effective.
Yeah. Consciousness cannot be killed, for it's just a symptom of the living entity, but it can just be changed. For any moment you can be miserable, or you can be detached and happy.
Yeah, which seems, from what you just said there, seems to imply being miserable is usually because we're attached to something. Material also. Because if you're attached to something spiritual that's connected with Krishna, you just see all good. You see positive, you see Krishna's hand, and when you see Krishna's hand, in one sense you can't exactly be miserable unless you're Kamsa, or Shishupal, or Dantavakra, or someone like that. So that's wow, that's amazing. Right behind the camera, this amazing duck just like flew up onto the thing. Anyway, maybe he'll come over here to shot. So, yeah, powerful. So at any moment we can change our consciousness. This is empowering. This is very powerful. Our consciousness, you can't kill it, We can't try to pretend we don't have consciousness, which is what the impersonalists tried to do. You know, we tried to become nothing and think we're nothing, but still, you know, even if you want to think of nothing, still you're thinking. You know, so you can't really kill consciousness. Even if you want to become desireless, still that's a desire. So consciousness can't be killed. It's always going to be there. So we have to transform it, right? Powerful. And I really like the last line. One becomes liberated by accepting Krishna or the Supreme Lord. That's powerful. One becomes liberated by accepting Krishna or the Supreme Lord. How? As master and by changing the mode of consciousness from material. So just like here, in one sense you could come here and be surrounded by all this material beautiful things because it's a very beautiful, serene place, and you could just be enamored by the material energy, which, of course, in one sense, we are. That's why we come here, because it's very beautiful. It's a serene place. But this bird just flew into the...
So Robin Redbreast.
So, but we're here reading Bhagavatam. That immediately, maybe it is. But we're here reading Bhagavatam, which spiritualizes the atmosphere. And we're also trying to understand that all this beauty has come from Krishna. All of this has manifested by Krishna's, it's all Krishna's divine energy. And this area is more in the mode of goodness. And of course in Goloka Vrindavan, this is kind of the environment that exists with Krishna performing his pastimes. Beautiful gardens, waterfalls. You know, if you think about Govardhan Hill, they describe it with caves and waterfalls and ponds and lakes and kurns. So many beautiful flowers. Birds are always described. Unlimited birds are often described as flowing on the lakes. That's Goloka. That's the spiritual world. So here we are in the material world, but to the extent that we see Krishna in that and remember Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, then we're not really in the material world. We're actually in the spiritual world because we're with Krishna. So this is Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Sorry, on a rant there. Okay, I have to get off my soapbox now.
Text 7?
Since I talk so much, would you like to read again?
No.
Okay. Okay, translation, text 7. Material consciousness is the cause of one's conditional life. There you go, just what you were saying earlier. In which conditions are enforced upon the living entity by the material energy. Interesting. Although the spirit soul does not do anything and is transcendental to such activities, he is thus affected by conditional life. That's very, very wonderful and powerful statement, huh? Just explains life in a nutshell, really. Yeah, just from that, it's exactly what you were saying earlier. Purport. The Mayavadi philosopher, who does not differentiate between the Supreme Spirit and the individual spirit, says that the conditional existence of the living entity is his Leela, or pastime. What is that? Well, anyway. But the word pastime implies employment in the activities of the Lord. The Mayavadis misuse the word and say that even if the living entity has become a stool-eating hog, he is also enjoying his pastimes. Hare Krishna. This is a most dangerous interpretation. Actually, the Supreme Lord is the leader and maintainer of all living entities. His pastimes are transcendental to any material activity. Such pastimes of the Lord cannot be dragged to the level of the conditional activities of the living entities. Very powerful statement. This word Leela or pastime refers to Krishna because it's chosen by him and he's not bound to it. He's not bound to it like we are. See, our activities are karma. His activities are Leela. Because karma means activity, but Leela is like you're just choosing to do it for your own pleasure. If someone becomes a stool-eating hog, that's probably not because they chose to do it for their own pleasure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to read the rest, or?
Mm-mm.
Okay. In the conditional life, the living entity actually remains as if a captive in the hands of the material energy. Whatever the material energy dictates, the conditioned soul does. He has no responsibility. He is simply the witness of the action. But he is forced to act in that way due to his offense in his eternal relationship with Krishna. Wow, powerful. So the living entity is inside of the material energy, conditional life. He's forced to act in a certain way. And why is that? Because of his offense inside of his relationship with Krishna. Lord Krishna therefore says in Bhagavad Gita that Maya, his material energy, is so forceful that it is insurmountable. But if a living entity simply understands that his constitutional position is to serve Krishna, and he tries to act on this principle, then, however conditioned he may be, the influence of Maya immediately vanishes. That's powerful, huh? This is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter. Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya duratya mami vaya prapadyante mayam atam tarantite. This is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter. Krishna takes charge of anyone who surrenders unto him in helplessness, and thus the influence of Maya or conditional life is removed. The next one's yours, right?
Next paragraph. The spirit soul is actually Satchid Ananda, eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. Under the clutches of Maya, however, he suffers from continued birth, death, disease and old age. One has to be serious to cure this condition of material existence and transfer himself to Krishna consciousness, for thus his long suffering may be mitigated without difficulty. In summary, the suffering of the conditioned soul is due to his attachment to material nature. This attachment should thus be transferred from matter to Krishna.
Thoughts?
Yeah, we have to transfer our attachments. But that doesn't mean you don't do your duty, like to your parents or your spouse or kids or whatnot, and say I'm not going to be attached in this way, you know? Especially if you see them as spirit soul or as devotees, or like these are children of God.
Yeah, and we perform our duty as part of our dharma. And what does that mean? Dharma means that which cannot be changed. It means that's our constitutional position. So I have to do something. So I'm doing this because I have to do something, but I'm going to do it as an act of loving devotion to Krishna. What were you laughing at?
Nothing.
Why?
So yes, you have to do your duty, but you just don't get attached in the wrong way, as it were. You know? Sometimes you see, like I think we mentioned it before, people have been practicing a long time, but all it takes, but you don't realize that you haven't gone as deep as, you know, to be around a long time doesn't mean one is necessarily advanced or deep in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is a very tricky fellow, so then some incident will come up regarding some attachment we have, family member or whatever, and then you realize, oh my God, because the way one reacts, that was more skin deep devotion than diving deep.
Yes, I'm an example. Just because I've been around for a few years doesn't mean I'm advanced, and I experience that daily. But hey, stay connected to the tree, and eventually, hopefully, by Krishna's grace and by my continual endeavor, then something will happen.
I still can't believe these things are growing in a tree. It's fascinating.
Where did you think they come from?
I just saw them on the ground, man. I don't know where they come from, but there's the tree's full of them.
She's gonna have to take a picture or video now of the tree and put it in so you can see these.
No, you Google it.
Pine cones. No, we have to make it an all-encompassing experience here for our viewers. Okay, so I think we might have time to read one more.
One more, number 8.
Number 8. The cause of the conditioned soul's material body and senses, and the senses presiding deities, the demigods, is the material nature. So that's the cause. Material nature is the cause of the material body, the senses, and the senses presiding deities, which are demigods. This is understood by learned men. Okay? So if you're learned, you understand that. The feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself. The feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself. This is, again, I think it's very, very empowering. It means that and I often say this, although when it's happening to you, you don't feel it the same, but we often say, you made me angry, you upset me, you made me happy, you did this to me. But actually, it's the spirit soul that makes the decision whether they're happy or distressed. It's not someone else who decides that for you. Someone else may perform an action that may be a cause, or let's say a stimulus for you to respond or react in a certain way. But ultimately, it's the spirit soul that decides. Now, if we give our power away by saying that other people do this to us or do that to us, but actually at the end of the day, we decide how we respond, and that's the point of being responsible. You're able to respond to circumstances and stimulus in a specific or particular way that you decide. Otherwise, it's not a response, it's a reaction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but like you said, it's easier said than done when it's
perfect
occurring to oneself.
That's right. It's easy for me to say it now, but if some guy walked up and slapped me in the face, or someone came up and told us to get out of here, you're not allowed to film, then I'd probably, react rather than respond. But
if someone slaps you, then you ain't going to just say, oh, I won't.
I will turn the other cheek.
Or
Lord Jesus Christ says,
you didn't make me upset with your slap on, like your hand hitting my face. It's my fault that I'm upset. No.
But
you hurt me because you hit my face with your hand. Yeah. But more in terms of words or argument or this or that, It's easy. But even then, words can hurt.
Yeah, of course. All these
but
things.
I understand what you're saying. It's like you can choose to have it mess up your day or whatever, week, month, year, life.
Yeah, someone may say something hurtful, but you decide whether you allow yourself to be hurt or not.
Yeah, or hold on to it.
Yeah, you choose the paradigm. You choose the interpretation. You choose the interpretation. You can interpret it however you like. Like people interpret a black cat walking in front of you as bad luck. You don't have to interpret it like that. In other countries, if a black cat walks in front of you, it might be good luck, I remember seeing, someone saying that if a bird does a job on you, then that's good luck. And I thought, well, that's a pretty crazy interpretation, but Hare Krishna. So we can choose to interpret, but we need to interpret with Krishna in the mix. We need to see Krishna's hand, so Krishna interpretation, Krishna conscious. And from a material perspective, then theoretically, try to stay positive about the situation. But no problem, there are also times when one may need to be angry, or one may need to be upset, or one may need to be stern, or like that. But make sure you're choosing it, because anger and lust, anger, greed, they're all gateways to the hellish consciousness. So, like that. Anyway, we should read. We're running out of time. Yeah, you read, because it's only one paragraph, and I've talked.
In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that when the Lord descends to this material world, he comes as a person by his own energy, Atma Maya. He is not forced by any superior energy. He comes by his own will, and this can be called his pastime or lila. But here it's clearly stated that the conditioned soul is forced to take a certain type of body and senses under the three modes of material nature. That body is not received according to his own choice. In other words, the conditioned soul has no free choice. He has to accept a certain type of body according to his karma. But when there are bodily reactions as felt in happiness and distress, it is to be understood that the cause is the spirit soul himself. If he so desires, the spirit soul can change this conditional life of dualities by choosing to serve Krishna. The living entity is the cause of his own suffering, but he can also be the cause of his eternal happiness. When he wants to engage in Krishna consciousness, a suitable body is offered to him by the internal potency, the spiritual energy of the Lord, and when he wants to satisfy his senses, a material body is offered. But once the body is accepted, he has to enjoy or suffer the consequences. The Mayavadi philosopher's presentation is that the living entity enjoys his pastimes by accepting the body of a hog. This theory is not acceptable, however, because the word pastime implies voluntary acceptance for enjoyment. Therefore, this interpretation is most misleading. When there is enforced acceptance for suffering, it is not a pastime. The Lord's pastimes and the conditioned living entity's acceptance of karmic reaction are not on the same level.
Thoughts? I think she's stunned in ecstasy. Viewers, lost for
I was
words.
just thinking, like, to play devil's advocate, like the Mayavadis, where someone might say, well, how do you know the hog isn't enjoying?
Well, the irony is that there's a saying that pigs are in Zen, they're also in bliss, enjoying in their own pig life. And even we have scriptural...
I got a pig life.
And we have a scriptural example of Indra when he was cursed to be born as a pig, and he did. Then Lord Brahma came and said, look, Indra, it's time to go back to the heavenly planets and rule the heavenly planets. And he was like, what about my piggy wife? What about my piggy kids? The farmer's coming soon to feed us.
All right, we get it.
So he seemed to be enjoying. But just because, sometimes we enjoy on a material level, of course there's material enjoyment and material distress, but that's not spiritual, and it certainly isn't chosen.
And they're ignorant.
Yeah. Covered, yeah.
Covered. All right.
I think we've covered everything.
Yes.
So remember, you are empowered to make the decision whether you're experiencing happiness or distress. That's your choice as a spirit soul. And if you put Krishna in the mix, then you become liberated from these happinesses and distresses. You're on a different platform altogether, confirmed by the 3 parrots that just flew overhead. Okay? Hare Krishna, any closing words?
Yeah, I was going to say you could do a little homework or experiment between the next time we meet, which is to just make a little note of where you chose Krishna over ordinarily where you may slip into some negative or whatever mood, and just keep a note and see how did it change your day, did it change your mood. You can put it in the comments even if you try that exercise.
I love this. This is why I really appreciate my wife.
I just finished my sentence, and it'd be lovely I'll make a note as well of my day of where I've been finished a sentence. But yeah, it's a nice little practical exercise and share. I'd love to. We'd like to read the comments and we'll try to do it as well.
Great. Are you finished?
Yes. You're going to now
Nope, I think it's great.
Glorifying
Do it
me.
later. She's amazing, as you know. Okay. Hare Krishna, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada
Yes.
Ki Jai.
Jai.
Iskon Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.